In class today, we briefly talked about place value and different number forms. If you missed out on class today, this is a short catch-up video on what they were about. We did quite a few examples, but for this video, we're only going to do one or two just so you can get an idea of what these look like. Now, what is the place value? And where is it? And why is it so valuable? All right, that was a bad joke. I'm sorry. Well, place value is actually really valuable because place value, I'm going to do this in a different color. Place value tells us how many ones, tens, and 100s, etc. are in a number. Long and short, place value lets us identify things in nice, easy groups. So far, we've talked about friendly numbers. Our friendly number that we talk about the most is 10. But there's another friendly number that we have that we don't talk about a lot, but we really like them. That's right, it's the number 1. We like 1. 1's easy for us to use. Well, we're also going to start using one other friendly number, and it's a big one. 100. Now, 100 may not seem very friendly because it's so large, but I promise you, 100 is one of our friendly numbers. In fact, you can kind of see a pattern. If you look, there's a 1 at the start of each of these numbers. The difference is whether there's a 0 at the end of it. There's no 0 behind the 1 here, and that's why 1 is just a 1. There's a 1 0 behind this 1, which makes it a 10, and there are 2 zeros behind this 1, which makes it 100. Okay, so how does this relate to place value? Well, let's use a number. We'll just combine all these together and get the number 111. Now, let's go ahead and draw a handy-dandy place value chart. Boop, boop. Now, in a place value chart, we start with the smallest number here on the right, and we put the largest value on the left. So, for this place value chart, the smallest value would be the ones place, and we only have 3 spaces because there are 3 numbers here. The smallest value being the ones place, this central value being the tens place, and this value on the left being the hundreds. Let me go ahead and I'll write the numbers above them in yellow. Ones, tens, 100s. Okay, so in this number 111, let's take a look. This first section here on the right is the ones place. How many ones do we have in the ones place? It's not a trick question. Yep, the answer is 1. How many ones do we have in the tens place? 1, and that 1 is in the tens place, so that means we have 110, or 10. And lastly, here we have on the right 1 in the hundreds place, which means we have 100. Now, all of these seem very confusing because they're all the same number. Well, let's quickly work out a different example of a different number. Here we're going to put our place value chart, and we're going to do the number 326. Okay, so in the number 326, let's go ahead and draw something that mimics our place value chart. Okay, so in our ones place, in our tens place, and our hundreds place, we're going to look at each of the corresponding numbers. How many ones do we have in 326? 6, right. So we can go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 ones. All right, now we look at the tens place. How many tens do we have? 2. So we have 10, 20, 2 tens. And last but not least, let's look at the hundreds place. How many hundreds do we have in 326? Right, 3. 1, 2, 3. So we have 3 hundreds, which equals 300, 2 tens, which equals 20, and 6 ones, which equals 6. Make sense? All it's saying is that we have 326, and we're representing that in its pieces. We have 6 ones, we have 6 ones, 2 tens, and 3 hundreds. 326. Okay, so on to the second. Numbers in different forms. Well, there are several forms here. Today we talked about word form, standard form, that looks real bad. Let me clean that up for you guys. Standard form and expanded form. Okay, each of these is pretty self-explanatory. Well, 2 of these are very self-explanatory. Standard form is how we standard or normally do numbers. We draw them in their numeric value. So, drawing numbers pretty well fits that description. Word form is writing numbers as words. Writing numbers with letters. And lastly, expanded form. Expanded form is when you write a number sentence to show the pieces of the number. So let's take a look. Use that number 326 again. And what we're going to do is, I'm going to get rid of that mark first. What we're going to do is we're going to write it in standard form here, standard form. We're going to write it in word form here. And lastly, we're going to write it in expanded form here. Okay, 326. Well, we've already written it in standard form. It's actually right there. This is standard form. It's the number 326, just using numbers to express it. So 326. See, standard form is pretty easy. We've been doing it all along. Word form's a little tricky because this means we have to actually practice our spelling skills. So, to put it in word form, I write 326. And that's word form. Notice the number is just written out in letter form this time instead of using numeric symbols. And lastly, expanded form. If I wanted to do 326, it's actually going to look really similar to what we had after we did our place value chart. We write 300, 20, and 6, and then we're adding them together to get to this number. We had 6 ones, 2 tens, which is 20, and 3 hundreds. And that about does it for that. This was just a glossary video because we talked about this in class. And I wanted to make sure everyone got some exposure to it before we saw it again. So, if this was helpful, I hope it was. And I hope that this isn't scary for you. Like it's something new that we're learning, so something new is always a little bit scary. But I hope you'll see that this is actually quite easy, and we've been doing a lot of this naturally.